Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Annalise Riles. I'm the Executive Director of the Northwestern Buffett Institute for Global Affairs. And this is, for the Buffett Institute, the best day of the year. So thank you for being with us today. Buffett is a lot of things, but we like to say it's a hub of connectivity. Our goal is to bring the brightest minds together to solve critical global challenges that none of us can solve on our own. And we recognize that, whoops. Okay, yeah. We recognize that the world is going through something of a global reset right now. New problems emerging, paradigms are shifting, and it's really critical that we find ways to foster meaningful collaboration across borders of all kinds, whether it's nationality or language or politics or religion or culture or discipline or profession or ideology, because the new genius is a collaborative genius. So this idea incubation process that we're talking about today is now in its third year, and it's a research-based approach to empowering and connecting our faculty so that they can pool their knowledge to address the greatest global challenges. And we take the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a framework for defining what those challenges are. And this is actually an area of my own research. How do you make it possible? In what kind of environment and what kind of conditions do folks come together to solve problems most effectively? And what we know from the research is that you got to bring down the barriers, make it easy, solve the logistical challenges, take a problem focus, bring together perspectives that don't easily or naturally connect, whether it's an engineer and a musicologist, or a doctor and a planet scientist, to give a couple examples you'll hear about today. And engage in a kind of environment of purposeful play where people can tinker, they can ask what-if questions, and new ideas emerge. And it really, at Buffett, just starts with a conversation. So those of you joining us in person or online who think, oh, this might be something that interests me, the barrier to engagement is so low. All you have to have is a little bit of a thought of, here's a question that might interest me, here's a problem I might like to address. You don't have to know how to do it. You don't have to know who you want to work with. We'll do all the work of bringing the group together just for a no pressure conversation. And a lot of the times that's all it is. It doesn't go any further. And from our point of view, that's absolutely okay. It's still a success. We've got lots of examples of people having a lunch or getting together, and two people from that group end up writing a paper together, or people just get to know each other, and that's fantastic. But in a few cases, the group decides that it wants to focus and move forward, and then we have a facilitation process which leads people to be able to connect and do great work, and eventually that leads to a competition, which results in winners who you're going to hear about today, who receive about $150,000 a year funding from Buffett plus administrative support for 2 years going. And guess what? This really works. Today you're going to hear from a number of our faculty about how they're doing this work, the remarkable projects that they're taking on that are literally changing the world, but also how much fun they're having and the connections that they've made with one another in this work, which is really what just makes my heart sing. So I want you to listen carefully when our faculty are speaking for the remarkable diversity in these teams. The kinds of people who are connecting with one another across barriers is just really inspiring, and not easy, by the way, to do. This year, more than 70 researchers from 27 Northwestern departments and 9 Northwestern schools participated in this process, and we're really grateful to all of you who did. We're going to hear about some of those successes. So today we're going to hear about that, but before we begin, I want to just say a few words of thank you. So first, I want to thank Roberta Buffett Elliott, whose vision of the role of universities in making the world a better place, and whose steadfast support and commitment makes all of this possible. And I also want to thank our Buffett Board of Advisors for their unyielding support for all that we do and their partnership, our honorary board chair, Roberta Buffett Elliott, our board chair, Fernando Chico, and board members Bonnie Daniels, Sunil Kamlani, and Cynthia Snorf Livermore who are just fantastic thought partners in this work. I also want to thank our amazing Northwestern Buffett research team. Could those of you on the research team please stand up, because you are so special. Thank you. Ariel Schwartz, Aaron Darasaw, Bowen Kim, and Jithan George. Those of you who've been through this process know these are the folks who work tirelessly to make those connections for you, to introduce other faculty, to facilitate the process, to coordinate and moderate, and just get us all to this point. And I also want to mention that there are other teams at Buffett who are also playing a critical role. Our communications team, folks over here, thank you, who make us all look so good every day. And of course, our finance team, who do all the back end work that makes it possible. So appreciate them very much as well. I also, of course, want to thank our faculty for participating in all this, for carving out time in what is an incredibly punishing year. It has been a punishing year for all of us, to do something that's over and beyond. And you guys are just amazing that you've done that, and we're really, really grateful. And last but not least, I really want to thank our selections panel, who had contributed their time, had a lot of homework, reading all of your proposals, thinking about this work, spending an entire day engaging with the groups. So Dean of the School of Communications, E. Patrick Johnson, who's with us today. Thank you, E. Patrick. And 3 other members who you'll see on video can't be with us today. Northwestern Buffett Board Chair, a member and Chair of the Board of MUFG Securities, Sunil Kamlani, President of the Malta Conferences Foundation, Zafra Lemon, and Associate Dean for Research and International Programs, and Chair in Philanthropy at Indiana University, Una Osili. So you will hear from all of them. So it's been an amazing year. Fantastic research from our ongoing teams. So before we turn to our winners, I think we should just take a moment and celebrate our groups that have been working all year long. And to do that, we're going to share just a real quick reel of video of some of that work that's been happening. So could we play that, please?
The problem that we're facing is that our arsenal of antibiotics is not expanding, and at the same time, pathogens are developing resistance to these antibiotics. And this means that diseases that we used to be able to treat very easily are becoming very, very difficult and sometimes fatal. And so what we're trying to do is to understand how antimicrobial resistance spreads between pathogens and between individuals, and figure out how to counter that.
The work that our working group has undertaken is to evaluate the disproportionate environmental effects that some communities experience from climate change, potentially alone, or through climate change and through the technologies that we are relying on to help alleviate climate change.
The issue of climate change is a crisis of communication across fields, whether it be a challenge for scientists and researchers to convey the urgency of the need for developing solutions for sustainability and for alternative energy use. Our work is dedicated to articulating new strategies of communication through media arts that seek to convey some of that immediacy, leveraging the power of the moving image and other media arts forms.
So the problem that we're really looking at as part of the Trauma, Music, and the Breath initiative is this issue of how could we leverage the power of music as a healing tool, as an intervention to serve particularly children at this point who have experienced developmental disruptions as a result of the global pandemic. And as a research group, we're interested in figuring out how music might fit into that picture, how singing and the breath might support healing as an intervention to support those children who have gone through this traumatic experience around the world.
We're really focused on the way that depictions of mental health through film and television media tend to center certain kinds of stories. In particular, they center white middle-class narratives about mental health and illness, and tend to ignore narratives that point toward the structural and social causes of distress, specifically how discrimination, oppression, poverty, racialization, and erasure contribute to varied forms and expressions of mental and emotional suffering.
One of the main outputs of the Race, Caste, and Colorism project, a important anthology which will bring together scholars from the US and abroad who are broadly concerned with South Asia and US Black America. We are equally invested in sparking a number of conversations that will prompt a new generation of graduate students and younger faculty members to integrate these ideas and these concepts into their ongoing research agendas.
The Idea Incubation Process at Buffett really helped us think about this project in new ways and to ask new questions of the problem that we were contending with because of its future orientation. Throughout the incubation process, we were asked to think about what we would want the world to look like in 10, 20, 30 years, and what kind of arts work, what kind of scholarly work, what kinds of activist work we could be doing now with respect to the problem that we're looking at, to try to manifest the world that we would like to see.
Those amazing groups, right? So we're lucky to have some of those amazing folks with us today. So I'd just like to ask a few of you, if you might just come up and chat with us for a second. So Erica Hartman, here she is. And Kim Susea, come join us. Kim, also from the Disproportionate Impacts Group. Laura Bruick and Ivy Wilson. And Sarah Bartolome and Heather Arani from the Trauma and the Music Group. Just a few examples. So folks, first of all, thank you so much for your incredible work this year. We're just so grateful to all of you. You are literally changing the world with your work, and it's really exciting. I want to ask you just a more personal question today, because we've heard a little bit about the project, each of your projects in a couple words. I'm just wondering if each of you could say just a word or two about how you have found yourself stretched or growing or changing as an individual and a scholar as a result of this work over the past year. That be something? What do you think? Go ahead.
Sure. Is this on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I think for me personally, one of the most pronounced changes that I've noticed is I'd been working on antimicrobial resistance for a long time as an environmental engineer and sort of thinking about it in an abstract sense, and working with Maureen Arshad. I don't know.
Yep, I can hear you.
Working with Maureen Arshad, who's my co-lead.
Oh, right. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And a bunch of other clinicians has really brought home what it means to have antimicrobial resistance be a problem. Like they're really experiencing very concrete impacts of antimicrobial resistant pathogens, whereas I sort of used to think about it in a more abstract ecological concept. And so it's really helped me change the way that I prioritize research questions, to think about not just what are the abstract basic science questions that we can answer, but also, how can I make this translatable so that it really has an impact.
So interesting. That's so interesting. Thank you. Kim, what about you?
Sure. Thanks so much. So I am one of the co-leaders of the Disproportionate Impacts of Environmental Change group. And we really set out to think about how could we do research differently? How do we do environmental research differently in a way that centers communities' research questions first? And it's actually been incredible. One of Jim is here, James Schwach. But in terms of an individual transformation, what's been wonderful in my experience is actually learning how to lead horizontally with all of our other colleagues from across the university in developing a methodology and that we're actually putting into practice right now of tribally driven research, and we're working with 10 Ojibwe nations. And I had the pleasure and privilege of presenting at one of the tribal council meetings a couple of weeks ago. And in that experience, although we've been working with them for 2 years, it really reminded me how important it is to center research questions, center those that are asked by communities, because they're the ones experiencing environmental change. And so I guess it's been a large growth, I think institutionally here at Northwestern for what we're trying to do. And I think, it really helps you hone some of the transdisciplinary leadership skills that we often don't ever even seek to cultivate. So I've really appreciated that.
So grateful for that. Thank you. Another broken one? Okay, sorry. Laura,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, my name is Laura Baruch, and I'm one of the co-leads of the Racecast and Colorism Project.
Which is so annoying. You're so beautiful. Come over here. Yeah, where we can see you.
Okay, you know what? I'll just stand. I'm going to stand at the podium. Okay, and I think that there's no question, and I've known this for a long time, but it's become quite manifest in the last year or 2 years, really, in terms of conceptualizing this project and then putting it into practice. But I think much better and definitely much more ambitiously when I'm working with others rather than working by myself. And I'm incredibly excited by my colleagues, and I revel in the excitement and energy that we collectively bring to bear on this project. I think it's clear to me that my intellectual horizons are growing expansively. The collaboration allows for me to better visualize the potential impact of my own expertise in other fields. But more important than that, I'm learning a tremendous amount. And in our particular case, Ivy and I collaborated on designing and teaching a new graduate course this quarter. And that brought together students from across the university, from across colleges, and the wide-ranging interdisciplinary directions of our discussions have been incredibly in that classroom have been incredibly catalytic in helping us and sort of think through this project even more expansively. And in fact, a couple weeks ago, I don't know if I should say this, but a couple weeks ago in class, we were having this really great discussion about this text from a translation of a James Baldwin novel into Marathi from 1965 that an Indian graduate student at the time had done and disseminated back in India. And all of a sudden, and I don't quite know how he did this because we were in the middle of class, but Ivy texted me and said, this is like, and had this great idea about something that we could do with that particular text and others like it it opened up a whole new avenue of what we're thinking about doing. So that energy has just been really tremendously exciting. And then the last thing I want to say is that I was at a conference a few weeks ago at the University of Chicago on critical caste studies, and I got asked in the Q&A about how do you bring something like caste, which so often and erroneously gets sort of marginalized as like a thing that happens over there, right? A thing that happens, an Indian thing and not another thing. How do you bring it to bear? How do you bring it into conversation with people who work in different fields? And how do you make them care about it? And I was thinking about it as I was answering, and basically what I said is you need to find, if you want to change the ways in which we think institutionally, we organize institutionally, you need to find a thought partner or partners with whom your interests intersect and your political and ethical commitments intersect. And then the excitement that will inevitably emerge from that partnership or that team will cultivate a situation wherein a sort of community of like-minded people just naturally grows up around you. And I think that this is something that we've definitely experienced this year, which has been very exciting.
Does this microphone work? Yeah, it apparently does. Sorry about that. It works quite well. Thanks, Laura. That was a perfect segue. So I have this, for me, I think for many of us, in fact, one of the most important thinkers of the 20th century and beyond is Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois, who famously wrote The Souls of Black Folk, which was published in 1903. It's a kind of landmark text. It's interdisciplinary, it's history, sociology, it's literature, it's music. And Du Bois's famous proclamation from that book that the problem of the 20th century is going to be the problem of the color line has resonated, I think, too deeply in some cases across the 20th century and beyond. Laura and I knew that that was going to be an important work for us. And as we began to do the work of constructing the syllabus, another work came into play, a book that was published in 1935 called Black Reconstruction. This book is expertly, manifestly, and seemingly singularly about the US Civil War. But as it turns out, the word caste comes up again and again and again and again in this work, somewhat surprisingly. But as it turns out, not so surprisingly, given Du Bois's kind of transnational, international turn around 1928 with the publication of a previous book called Dark Princess, a novel. So I'll just read to you one quick quote here that hovers on what Laura said about caste being something elsewhere. And this is from Du Bois's Black Reconstruction. Beyond this, caste has been revived in a modern civilized land, that is the US. It was supposed to be a relic of barbarism and extant only in Asia. We took that statement as a kind of problematic, as something to kind of work through in the Race, Caste, and Colorism project in its manifold iterations. That is the art project on Devon with a site-specific art installation going on in the fall, the joint team course, graduate course we're teaching in the spring, and a research colloquium. We see in this notion that caste is something that happens elsewhere or is antiquated, is in the past, as something that belies the ways in which US democracy is deeply sutured and invested in a notion of the underclass. And what does it mean to have an underclass that essentially underwrites a liberal notion of democracy? Right. And so we found it again and again, the comparisons between caste in India and a racialized underclass in the US is having some comparative qualities that help us think about the larger question and possibilities of democracy in the US when it's guaranteed by, in essence, what William Julius Wilson will call an underclass. I'll close here kind of individually, but what I've learned as a 19th century Americanist, and I said this, I announced it rather in the Ideas Incubation Workshop. I felt kind of guilty because my first book is called Specters of Democracy. It's very tightly wound about the antebellum period in a really small 6-year period. And so I felt like, hey, I'm not really international. I'm not global enough. But as Annalise mentioned, it was the kind of catalytic energy that was put into orbit by the meeting of Laura and I in these conversations that allowed me to see my research anew. And as it turns out, caste is not just a key word in Du Bois's lexicon, it goes as far back into the 1820s in terms of African-American political thought. So I'll close here just by noting that for me, one of the beauties of this project and working with Laura in particular is that it has reiterated the centrality of the humanities for how we think about global studies and international studies. And it has also reiterated a way for us to think about interdisciplinarity even when we're working in the same genre of literature. So thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sarah Bartolome, and I'm one of the co-leads of the Trauma, I'm not on the screen, where are they? Trauma, Music, and the Breath project. So I'm a music educator by training, like I teach kids to sing, it's my job. And I take a lot of joy in it, and I've always felt there's a lot of meaning in sharing the joy of music with tiny humans. I think that through the process of working on this project, I should also say my work lives kind of at the intersection of ethnomusicology and music education. So I've always been interested in how participatory music making around the world serves humans, how they build communities, how those communities are meaningful both in the lives of the music makers and in the lives of the surrounding community members. So my work has always been global. I've done research, been fortunate to do research all over the world on this topic. But I think through this project, what I've come to really understand is it's okay to think bigger, to really, as Laura was saying, to think more ambitiously about the potential impact of the work, my research, my work as a musician, as a teaching artist, as somebody who works with children. And so it's been really quite wonderful to explore those possibilities. Over the course of the last year, I found myself in a biomedical engineering lab working with exceedingly smart people and learning about how we can measure vibrations at the suprasternal notch in order to measure heart rate variability, which is something I don't think was on my radar a year and a half ago. A couple weeks ago, Heather and I found ourselves in York, England for a week, working with scholars at the International Center for Community Music to start to figure out how we're gonna measure these things abroad. Last week, we had one of the scholars here in the US starting to figure out this research collaboration, how this partnership will work. And it's been an opportunity for us here on our campus to learn from them over there. So I think it's just kind of broadened, to use the phrase that Laura said, have broadened the intellectual horizon, I think, of my work in terms of what that impact could be. And I really, owe that to Buffett, the vision of the leadership of Annalise, and this idea of, what can we do as a university to change problems in the world and to the next level? What can I do as a human who teaches music to tiny people to change the world? And through this project, I've kind of discovered, there are lots of possibilities that are available through this kind of interdisciplinary collaboration, especially when the support is there. I'll just say one more thing, which is a lot of institutions tout the power of interdisciplinary research and learning. Not a lot of institutions support it this way. This is the first time I've had the freedom of time, the freedom of financial support, and the freedom of connection with other humans on this campus, which really has allowed the project to flourish. So I'm incredibly grateful for that and excited about the possibilities of this program for what it means, what Northwestern is going to contribute to the world as a result of this important work. So thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm Heather Rani. I am the other co-lead of the Music, Trauma, and the Breath Project. Am I in front of this? So I'm going to go over here. So personally, I think as someone who teaches innovation, it's tremendously exciting to be able to see systems and structures that really maximize the talent and potential of brilliant people on this campus and around the world, and to be able to contribute in real time to solving global problems is thrilling. So in terms of the work, I want to say that we are already receiving tremendous feedback from around the world on music, trauma, and the breath. But we also, as we connect with Mexico and England and people in many institutions throughout the world, they are blown away by the structures and the paradigms that are being created at Northwestern to do this work. And so on another level, on a more meta level, the whole process of innovation that is happening at Buffett, we are so grateful for. I echo Sarah's comments that you have really put together with great intentionality how to do truly innovative work globally to solve problems in real time. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Aren't these guys amazing? Let's give them a hand. Thank you so much. Thank you. Incredible, incredible people. I mean, I like to say the people who are involved in these projects are just such brilliant, broad-thinking scholars, but also just incredible human beings. And so it's an honor to be with you, and really fun too. Okay, now it's time to announce our winners. So without further ado, I'm proud to announce our newly awarded groups. And so for each of these groups, we're actually going to allow one of the judges to introduce the project and say a little bit about why it was selected. So our first winner is the Artificial Intelligence and Social Movements group, co-led by Braden King and V.S. Subramanian. Congratulations. Judge Sunil Kamlani is going to introduce this amazing project. So we've got a video.
I'm Sunil Kamlani, and I serve on the Northwestern Buffett Advisory Board. It was a real privilege to participate in this year's Idea Incubation Workshop. I was so impressed to see the range of projects which covered important thematic areas like climate change, social movements, gender equity, and mental health. What was common across all of the projects was that they were interdisciplinary, with faculty representing multiple schools at Northwestern. They were also collaborative and global, including universities across the country and the world. Every project was designed to create real impact, centered around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Overall, I was struck by the quality of the proposals, the caliber of the teams, their incredible passion, and their ambition to tackle some of the biggest societal challenges we face. They showcased what makes Northwestern a leading university and preeminent research institution. They also embodied the ethos, mission, and values of the Buffett Institute. So the project I will briefly comment on related to artificial intelligence and social movements. As we know, social movements are collective efforts to bring about societal change, but their success is often hindered by inadequate public attention, resourcing, or scale. What I really liked about this project is that I have seen firsthand how even promising social impact work doesn't succeed because of the fragmentation of these initiatives. So this effort really resonated with me. It aims to build an online portal to track social movements and assess their efficacy. It will also use artificial intelligence to chart their evolution. The data would show which entities are engaged in a certain space, enable activists to collaborate for impact, help journalists shine a light on these movements, and mobilize policymakers to respond. It could also be used for social science research and to help shape public policy. The initial focus will be on social movements that tackle several of the UN's SDGs, like reducing poverty and hunger, improving gender equity, and advancing peace and justice. The goals are certainly ambitious, and the team plans to create a network of journalists, policymakers, and scholars to help identify the locally relevant social movements and ensure that the data is collected and used in an ethical way. Because the effort will be global and multilingual, I think it could really help guide the work of governments by showing them what their citizens most care about. And creating a platform that improves transparency could fuel collaboration amongst these movements and attract funding to sustain their efforts. I believe this project has the potential to catalyze the important work of social movements and significantly increase their impact, which will ultimately strengthen civil society around the world. We were all very impressed by the team, and the project received unanimous support from the panel. We wish them great success with their work, and we look forward with anticipation to the launch of this important initiative.
Congratulations to the team. So we're lucky that we have with us Walter P. Murphy, Professor of Computer Science and Buffett Faculty Fellow, V.S. Subramanian. V.S., congratulations. So thrilled.
Thank you, Annalise.
Can you say a few words?
All right. So it's really hard to do better than Sunil just did online, so I'll try my best. So we're all aware that social movements start and oftentimes fizzle out. A piece of research by Erica Chenoweth at Harvard University showed, on the other hand, that social movements that reach and get about 3.5% of the population on board almost always achieve their goals down the road. We'd like to make sure that social movements that support the SDGs are able to get to that level so that people around the world, different countries, can achieve sort of the ambitions that they have in supporting the SDGs. So as an example, you can think of SDG 5 with Girls' Generation, a movement that focuses on stopping female genital mutilation. So I think we'd all agree that that's an SDG and a movement that we'd like to support. But there are many, many thousands of movements like this around the world where the participants in those movements, person A here and person B here, don't even know of each other's existence. Can we build a technology, can we build a portal that enables them to get to know about each other so they can organize efforts more strongly than they do currently? Can we focus a light, as I think Sunil Kamlani more or less alluded to, on some of these movements as they emerge from their infancy to something bigger, so that journalists who are tracking movements in their own respective geographies, or globally for that matter, can look at these movements and say, here's something really, really interesting and worthwhile that's going on. And by writing about them and those movements, they get more adherence to join the movement itself. And once politicians, we all may have jaundiced views of politicians, but politicians do occasionally respond to what the population wants. If they don't know what the population wants, we can be fairly certain that the response will be much worse. So can we shine a spotlight again on these small movements as they've started out and help them grow when they support SDG and other worthwhile goals? There are lots of challenges in achieving this. For example, we need to make sure that the data we gather is ethically used, gathered ethically, and so forth. And so those are challenges we're going to work on. So at the end of the day, our goal is to build a portal. We're calling it SMART, which stands, if I remember right, for Social Movement Analysis and Reasoning Tool. And it's going to be something that gathers data about different kinds of movements, puts it up as a global public good for anybody on the planet to use. And we have a fantastic team of people, most of whom I did not know till we started this. And it was thanks to Aaron and Ariel's heroic efforts that I know them. So they include faculty from McCormick, from Medill, from Weinberg, and I'm sure I'm missing at least, from Kellogg. So we don't have every school on campus represented, but we've got a very nice interdisciplinary swath. I'd like to sort of just call out Kate Compton, who's one of our PIs, who's here as well. So that's our effort. If you're interested, please do reach out to me after the session this afternoon. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, our second winner is the Climate Crisis in Media Arts Project, and Judge Zafra Lerman is going to introduce it.
My name is Zafra Lerman, and I'm the president of the Malta Conferences Foundation, which uses science diplomacy as a bridge to peace in the Middle East. First, I want to praise the Buffett Institute for their excellent idea of the incubation showcase. Being in academic all my life, I know very well how hard it is to bring professors from different universities to collaborate. And the Buffett Institute with these projects managed to do it very well. All the projects that received the award for them are really extremely important for the world we are living in. Especially in the last week in the US, we realized how important is gender equality and how we have to fight for that as a result of the Supreme Court leak that we heard about. The heat that we experience here in Chicago emphasized how important is the work of the group that will develop the indexes to warn audiences and population that are in danger of this heat in advance. The climate change in the media for sure is extremely important, and I'll get to that in a minute after praising the social movements. That is one of the groups that received the award and will deal with issues extremely important for our time. A special word I want to express to the climate change and the art media. I taught for many years science through art, dance, theater, the computer animation, film, video, and it was a wonderful way to communicate science to people that otherwise would not have touched a class of science. Therefore, I feel that what this group is going to produce is one of the most important communication on an issue that is extremely important for survival of the planet, climate change.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations. So we're lucky to have with us both Michael Metzger, who is curator of media arts at the Block Museum, and JP Sniadecki, an anthropologist and filmmaker. Could you both come up here, please, and tell us a little bit about the project? Congratulations to you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Metzger. I'm the curator of media arts at the Block Museum and a co-lead of the Climate Crisis and Media Arts Working Group.
Hi, everyone. I'm JP Snayadecki. I'm another co-lead of this group. We're really excited. That was a great lead-in. And just a little bit to give you a sense of what we're involved in. We're a group of scholars and media makers and community members who share an urgent concern for the climate crisis and the crisis of representation that it presents as well. And we believe that the expressive power and the experiential capacity of media arts married with scholarship plays an urgent role in catalyzing the cultural change necessary to address this challenge. Our efforts focus on the frontline communities facing the effects of climate change most intensely to develop public-facing creative projects, scholarship, and curriculum and curation that empower affected communities and communicate everyday experiences of climate crisis. While shocking statistics and doomsday projections are common in environmental media, they threaten to lead to paralysis sometimes. And so we hope to meet this representational challenge to forge new paths of inclusive address that generate engagement, participation, and empathy. To make this work sustainable, collaborative, and multi-sided, we position ourselves as an integral resource, or as integral resources, in supporting new research in arts production and connecting participating communities in a global network.
Thanks, JP, and thank you to the Buffett and to everyone who helped steward this project. Some of the challenges that we're hoping to address with the Climate Crisis and Media Arts Working Group would be to stimulate novel approaches to climate change by coupling artistic practice with interdisciplinary scholarship, curricular development, activism, and advocacy. We will create understanding about the causes and effects of the climate crisis through direct support of innovative media projects that evoke the lived experience of climate change. Climate Crisis and Media Arts will create a juried grants program to facilitate access to resources for the artists, researchers, and activists working at the front lines of the crisis. We will create awareness about these projects through commissioning new scholarship, as well as artist writings and hosting screenings and participatory forums across the working group's extensive networks. Through these public-facing workshops, screenings, and lectures, CCMA will amplify the efforts of key stakeholders, such as indigenous media makers like the Cousin Collective, environmental advocacy groups like the National Resources Defense Council, politically engaged communities such as the Fan Hall Film Center in Beijing, who are successfully modeling approaches to climate activism and who are integrating current best practices of ethics and sustainability. Through curriculum development, archive building, and professional gatherings like film festival panels and scholarly convenings, we will develop resources that make it easy to integrate climate media and scholarship in teaching and organizing efforts. We hope to launch a climate crisis themed TGS graduate cluster organized across the sciences and humanities, and we'll work towards the creation of an interdisciplinary climate crisis and media arts laboratory. In our internal activities and public programs, we will integrate wellness and support practices for justice-based, goal-oriented climate work, and we'll research and disseminate sustainability standards in the fields of media arts production that can be integrated throughout Northwestern. Through these activities, we intend to transform the ways that we communicate about the climate emergency on both a local and an international level. At Northwestern, CCMA workshops, events, and convenings will mobilize the vivid communicative potential of art to create interdisciplinary dialogues about the effects of climate change, how to represent it, how to teach it, and how to make change. Our work will make it easier for NU faculty to integrate climate media into the curriculum across the university and catalyze partnerships across the humanities and sciences through the direct support of creative projects. In this, we intend to make Northwestern a leader in addressing sustainability and adaptation by incentivizing meaningful engagement with climate, whether you're a student, an administrator, an educator, or a community member. By developing these initiatives in direct collaboration with institutional partners and impacted communities, we will ensure that our media arts projects and curricular resources will be used to raise awareness and transform policy.
I'll just end by saying that we'd like to thank, obviously, Annalise, the entire Buffett team, and especially Ariel Schwartz and Aaron Dyrasol, who shepherded us crazy cats, herded us like a bunch of kittens through the Idea Incubation Process, which we found not only expanded our working group's reach, scope, and participation across various schools, departments, and both here and beyond, outside of Northwestern, but it also enabled us to become truly increasingly integrated into diverse units across university, but also helped us distill our research and efforts towards clear outcomes and rubrics for measuring success. I think without those really productive conversations, we might still stay in a realm of something a little bit more vague and less grounded in results. So it's now our time to get to work. We're very thrilled to get to work. We're very grateful. And please reach out to us if you'd like to learn more and be involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. And by the way, you need to be on our mailing list if you're not, because they're showing so many fabulous films all the time. So there's opportunity for good date nights from these guys. All right. Okay. The next group is our Diffusing Disasters group, co-led by George Champas and Dan Horton, and Judge Una Osili is going to introduce them.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Una Osili. I am the Associate Dean for Research and International Programs at the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, and I am honored to join you all virtually as part of Northwestern's Buffett Institute for Global Affairs Idea Incubation Process. I am thrilled to be part of the 2022 Data Incubation Workshop. As a proud Northwestern alum, I received my doctorate in economics many decades ago, and so pleased to see the interdisciplinary collaboration and to see so many scholars from so many parts of the university tackle some of the most pressing challenges of our time. One of the projects that we were fortunate to review is called Diffusing Disasters. This project focuses on extreme weather and aims to develop a heat vulnerability index that will inform policymakers, both locally and globally, as to how vulnerable populations are being impacted by extreme weather and heat in particular. The project has a strong interdisciplinary team and particularly has emphasized collaborations with local policymakers, but also public health practitioners. To place this project in a global context, rising temperatures and extreme weather events and heat waves are affecting more and more of our populations globally around the world, in the global south, as well as in cities around the world. And projects like Diffusing Disasters can provide policymakers with timely and relevant data to enable them to make better decisions that will guide the most vulnerable and protect the most vulnerable in our communities around the world. Thank you again for the opportunity to be part of the 2022 Idea Incubation Workshop at Northwestern's Buffett Institute for Global Affairs.
Congratulations, fantastic. So I think we have Professors Champas and Horton with us. There they are. Amazing. Thank you, guys. Congratulations.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for Buffett and the whole team for the support in this award. We look forward to doing the work. So I'm a climate scientist in the Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences. And as a climate scientist, my job is typically to point out all the bad stuff that's going to happen in the future. I make predictions of bad things that are going to happen to you. And one of the things that we're most confident, climate scientists are most confident in predicting, is that extreme events are going to become more intense and more frequent into the future. These are events like heat waves, flooding events, droughts. The other thing we know about climate change is that it disproportionately affects societies. We know that those that are disadvantaged bear the brunt of climate change. And so one of the most exciting things about this project is that I get to work on the other side of the ledger. I get to work on the solution side of climate change. And in this case, what does that mean? It means helping to identify the vulnerable and helping to build resilience within those communities. And we're doing this first in partnership with local government organizations here in the city of Chicago. but also bringing a global focus as well, and re-engineering the way that we're going to build confidence within the community that they can trust the indices that we're going to create. So it's quite exciting. And I think the other fun thing about this project is that I talked to someone like George, who spends a lot of his time in an ER saving lives. And that's totally outside of my discipline. And it's just really exciting to be involved in a project that might have a similar outcome. So again, thank you to the Buffett Institute, and I'll turn it over to George.
Thanks, Dan. First of all, my name is George Champas. I'm an ER doc, and so the opposite of Dan is I try to save people's lives in moments of disasters and large-scale incidents. I think when we look at this project, one of our first questions was what has happened in the past. And for those that are from Chicago, the city of Chicago had one of the worst heat waves and too many lives lost. Unfortunately, because of relationships and partnerships, we were able to sit down with the city of Chicago, the Chicago Department of Public Health, Office of Emergency Management and Communications, and say, where are we today as climate change is happening? And we know that our city is going to get warmer, and specifically be strategic in our neighborhoods to understand whom and where are those vulnerabilities. And currently, the city of Chicago doesn't have a heat variable index, while other cities nationally and internationally do. And it's a void. It's one tool that they don't have that can make a difference. And for those that may be watching, even prior, when we started having these conversations 2 weeks ago, 3 unfortunate individuals died in the city of Chicago when the temperatures went up and simple basic things and resources aren't in place. So our goal is to be able to give a tool to the city of Chicago, but bring in public and private partners to be able to mitigate that, and that these preventable deaths never happen again. And what is even more exciting is that the city of Chicago sees Northwestern medicine, and all of the expertise come together to be able to service the city, and then take this and be able to service other cities and other populations around the world. I would love to also acknowledge Dr. Chan and Dr. Lorenzo Gallone, our peers and a part of this project, and especially the Buffett Institute. Without that vision and without bringing us together, we would never know the peers and the scholars that this incredible institution has. And even the two I mentioned, Dr. Gallone and Dr. Chan, who literally travel around the world managing disasters, incidents, and bringing us together. And then the team at Buffett, which I know it's been said many times tonight, what they do to be able to take us from some incredible ideas that we have and really bring it to focus and give us the faith that what we're thinking about is something that could be impactful. We can't thank you enough. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Another amazing, amazing project. Okay, to introduce our next project, I want to welcome Dean E. Patrick Johnson as one of our judges.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am E. Patrick Johnson, the Dean of the School of Communication. I would first like to thank Annalise and the Buffett Institute for affording me the incredible opportunity to be an evaluator for this year's projects. When Annalise reached out to me and said it would be a full day, I was like, I'm a dean, I don't have time. I'm so glad that I did say yes, and it was a day well spent because of the incredible projects that I had the good fortune, along with my colleagues, to evaluate. The kind of collaborative spirit, interdisciplinarity, was just mind-blowing to solve some of our world's problems. I have the great honor to talk about one such project, the language curricula and gender proposal. Language, from a baby's cry to be fed or changed, to nonverbal cues, to the names we are called by, shapes every aspect of human existence. How language is structured, therefore, can reinforce or jettison power dynamics that maintain the status quo. The language curricula and gender groups proposed work will help guide the world in rethinking how we teach language in ways that dismantle binaries, dismantling stereotypes and discrimination based on gender. And their proposal to do this through looking at how we teach language, our textbooks, is going to be transformative. The other thing that's a key component is that it is transnational. And so it is with great, great pleasure that I look forward to hearing more about how transformative this project is and how we teach language around the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much, E. Patrick, and truly, thank you for that day. It wasn't just a day. You had to do a lot of homework too, and I'm really grateful for that. So let's see, we have Professor Reina Radawi with us, and also Professor of German, Franziska Lies. Thank you so much. Congratulations to you both.
Good afternoon, esteemed guests. I'm Rana Radawi, faculty in the MENA Languages program. I teach Arabic and translation, and I'm happy, along with my colleague, Franziska Lies from German department, to share with you, on behalf of our team members, the main objectives of our research project titled Achieving Gender Equality Through the Language Curriculum. But first, I'd like to thank the Buffett Institute, in particular, Annelise, Ariel, Aaron, and the whole Buffett team for believing in our idea, engaging with it, and helping us develop such an ambitious plan. Thank you very much. I also thank the selection committee, really, for their time and efforts to review, consider, and support our proposal. So gender equality is a deep-rooted global issue acknowledged by the United Nations and other worldwide organizations. As a result of gender inequality, such as discrimination, stereotype, and gender gap, women are disadvantaged in many parts of the world. More than 80 million women are unemployed, and close to 70% of the total population living under the poverty line are women. Since 2/3 of the world's illiterate adults are women, their outlook is dim. Women receive only 1/10 of the world's income and own less than 1% of the world's property. So, achieving diversity and gender equality is a vexing problem, long thought to be only possible through global educational outreach. And I'm one of those strong believers that we cannot make a change in society or the culture unless we start with education. However, curricular processes are not neutral. And although worldwide efforts have been made to explore inequalities in education, few have been successful in exploring these processes. Gender stereotypes in textbooks are still considered one of the most 5 important challenges towards gender equality in education. As an example, in 12 introductory textbooks at the university level in the United States, a female character was found in only 28% of images and 9% of texts. In other textbooks, most texts depicted male in leadership roles and women in traditional inferior roles. Our group, expert in language and education, proposes research that will substantially contribute to the discussion, one, of the curriculum, whether language and gender in the language curriculum play a significant role in contributing to or refining stereotype and perpetuating discrimination. There is evidence also that gendered language use may promote sexist perception. In French, Arabic, and Portuguese, for example, pronouns, nouns, and adjectives reflect the gender of the object to which they refer. In French, le policier is a policeman, la policière is a policewoman. The language has no neutral grammatical gender. The second component we're looking at is pedagogy. How language pedagogy might be marshaled to help advance gender equity in language education and beyond. And third, we're looking at the classroom context, role of the class environment in advancing gender equity, such as the instructors' and learners' backgrounds. Ultimately, our goal is to better understand the ways that language curricula reinforce, exacerbate, or disrupt cultural assumptions and stereotypes about gender, and to develop resources, both actual materials, and community connections that will enable language instructors to think critically and teach dynamically about the ongoing social phenomenon of language and culture. We strongly believe that teaching about diversity and equality establishes a firm understanding of our world and of moral and social values, and help create future leaders with positive and open-minded attitudes, our students. Thank you. Now.
Thank you, Anna. So I am Franziska Lies, and I'm a professor in German, but I have also been working with the MENA Languages Group for the last 4 years, and that's where I met Rana, and I've been working with some other really exceptional people in the MENA language group, and I'm very happy to represent that group and actually to represent all of the languages that we teach at Northwestern. I've been here for quite some time, and it's really a pleasure of working with all of them. I'm actually speaking today on behalf of Marcella Worsley, who directs the Technological Innovations for Inclusive Learning and Teaching Lab at Northwestern, and who is the co-lead of the team, but he couldn't be here, so he asked me to say a few words. I'm also representing our other team members that I would like to mention. We have Gregory Ward in linguistics, who helped us think through some linguistic language problems, Julia Moore in English as a second language, Ragi Mikhail in Arabic, and Anna Williams in Portuguese, and they're both here today with us. Oh, Julia is here too. Thank you, Julia. I didn't even see you. Thanks. In addition, I'm representing our current global stakeholder from the University of Hamburg and Leipzig in Germany, who are very interested in engaging with us and sort of learning from us what we are doing, and we learning from them what they have been doing, especially also with refugees who sometimes come from very different countries and have to be integrated into a culture very quickly and learn very quickly. And we also have partners at the University of Exeter in the UK and at the University of Amman in the United Arab Emirates at this point. And of course, we hope that we can excite some other languages here at Northwestern and their potential global partners for our work that we are proposing. So Rana has actually told you most about the project, what we are planning to do. So I'm not going to read through all of the notes that I have that what we would like to do. You may want to know that we are planning outreach. So once we have looked at textbooks, once we have figured out what could be improved, and once we know how we might be able to improve it, we are hoping to put these units, whether they are media units or text units, on a website and share with the world for them to learn from what we have learned. So this is our outreach, and we hope that in 5 to 10 years, we really will have impacted the world in terms of how we can teach in the future. So the outcome of this project will be available at the global education level to be adopted and adapted in diverse cultures that also struggle with issues of gender, religion, and sexuality. And we want to make sure that both the pedagogy and the curriculum provide intentional steps to ensure that marginalized ethnicities and genders are engaged as full and valued participants in our learning community. And as a last point, I want to make reference to the Sustainable Development Goals. I love those goals. Established by the United Nations Assembly, our project touches on 4 of those 17 goals. Providing quality education, ensuring gender equality, reducing gender inequality, and establishing partnerships with people and communities in search of solving our most pressing global challenges. So thank you very much for the support.
Thank you so much. And if you have any questions to us, our team members, please do not hesitate to reach out to us either now or in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great. So, so you can see these are some phenomenal projects, 5 phenomenal projects. And I just want to say that we truly hope to have 5 new projects next year. So towards that end, If you are listening to this or watching us on Zoom and you think, well, I have an idea or I have a question, what can you do? Well, you can speak to me. You can speak to Ariel Schwartz. We also have 3 Buffett ambassadors who are faculty members with expertise who you can speak to. So I just want to introduce Baron Reed, who's here, is our faculty ambassador for the humanities. So he is a philosopher by training and is available to kind of talk with you about what this all looks like and how you could make it work in your field. Professor Seda Mehmek is our ambassador for the STEM fields. She's an engineer, a computer scientist, and she's available to meet with you or meet with your department or chat about ideas. And Heather Rani over here is our ambassador for the professional schools and can do the same for those fields. So please feel free to reach out to any of them or email any of us, and you don't need to have a formal proposal. All you need to have is an inkling of an idea, a concept, and we will really do the legwork. The idea here is to bring down the barriers and make this easy for you. So that is our goal. This is the right time to do this. Between now and October is when we sort of gel on projects that we're going to take through our process. So this is a really great time to reach out to any of us. And in fact, we're going to have a reception in just a minute, so you can talk to us right now. So before we do that, I just want to once again thank all of our projects, all of our faculty, and also our amazing, amazing Buffett staff who believe so much in all of us faculty and really give their all every day so that we can just be our best. And I just want to thank you all, Buffett staff. So thank you so much. And with that, I think it's time for us to toast our new groups. So we have a party out there. So please head that way for a glass of wine and conversation about next steps. Thank you.